All righty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Friday, October 14th, and it's game week, Kansas game week. Tomorrow's the big game. Kansas is ranked, OU is not, believe it or not, for the very first time in this matchup since ever. So definitely a little odd and definitely a different feeling around this game than what we thought beginning of the season. I would have thought this would have been a snooze fest of a game, and it would have been 65-0 Oklahoma. Well, we're in a different spot. So we're going to be giving that game preview. We're going to be talking. There's a lot of OU recruiting rumors going around. The rumor mill is hot, and it is pumping out a lot of headlines and various other things about top recruits that are committed to Oklahoma. So we're going to talk about those rumors, give our opinions and thoughts on each one of them, and just kind of have some general discussion on that. And then we're obviously, today is Friday, so we're going to do our locks of the week. I think Jose's got 5 bets. I've got 5 as well. So we're not putting out, 10 bets this week. We just like 5 games each. And obviously, we're going to be talking OU Kansas on the betting line as well. I think Jose and I disagree. So we'll talk about that at the end. But before we get into it, I just want to say we appreciate it. We're 5,100 subscribers. We're holding the line. There's been a lot of unsubscribing, and then we gained a bunch of subscribers and people unsubscribe. I don't know if we're upsetting people or people are upset with how OU's doing. Obviously, I'm sure some people are not happy with how OU's doing. I know I'm not, but it is what it is. And so people are just unsubscribing. But if you've been here the whole time, we really appreciate that. Like the video, comment on the video, and remember, if you're already subscribed, when you like and comment, that helps us out a lot. And be sure to stick around for Jose's end of video challenge and turn that notification bell on, so whenever we post a video or we go live, you'll have a direct notification to your phone. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Apple and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. And we'll just get into it now. So the rumor mill is going crazy right now. OU, through some updated rankings according to 247 Sports, OU has jumped up to the number 3 recruiting class in all the land in the country in the 2023 class. But if you were just on Twitter and just looking around, you would think that OU's recruiting class is a dumpster fire and that the wheels are falling off. OU is bound for like a top 25 recruiting class, maybe get 12 guys committed, and that's about it. And you would think the world's ending. And so obviously the Jackson Arnold room. You want us to talk about that one, Jose? I mean, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we can get started there. And I think just to kick it off, it really seems like most of these rumors usually start within the fan base. For whatever reason, we like to match to our own fire before it's really even there. I mean, I've said it multiple times, but you don't see other schools that are having issues this year worried about losing recruits or people freaking out about it on Twitter, fans, people that are trolling like it doesn't happen. Look at Miami, they're 2-3, and they're still probably going to add a lot more talent. Like the Jackson Arnold stuff, I don't understand where it came from. I've definitely seen it a couple times, but fans need to just chill out until the player himself says something or there's an actual trusted source that comes out and says something about something like that happening. There's no reason to freak out and already say that we're losing half this recruiting class because of Oklahoma's last 3 games. Now, have they been great 3 games? No. Have they even been mediocre? No, they've been absolutely dumpster fires. But you can't really do anything about it as a fan and someone that supports the team. All you can really do is show up, get excited for them, cheer them on, watch them on TV if you can't go to the game. And if you are someone that wants to interact with these players and the recruits on Twitter, go for it, man. I mean, I'm sure they appreciate seeing the love from you guys. And I'm sure, and it's cool whenever they reply to people every once in a while. It's cool to see if they interact with fans. But to me, at least, there's no reason why this fan base needs to be so up in arms about losing this recruiting class if you're not also talking about that with the exact same energy level about a school like Miami losing their entire recruiting class. Because at least Oklahoma's been successful. Mario Cristobal is actually having to build that from the studs. Yeah, Brent Venables isn't having a great start, but Cristobal isn't having a great year either. You don't see Miami fans freaking the hell out about losing their 5-star quarterback, about losing all their talent. There's no reason to do it as an Oklahoma fan. And I get it. It's frustrating. The team isn't where we want it to be as a fan, but what the hell can you do? We cannot affect the on-field performance. All we can do is show our love to the players and the recruits and go about our days.
And we were talking about this before we got on the show, is we do feel like that a lot of these rumors are not even from other fan bases. They are Oklahoma fans that are thinking that the world is over, OU football is in the dumpster. And I'm sure other fans and other places, other schools might start these rumors as well, but it just seems like it's all internal. It's all self-inflicted wounds. And, Jackson Arnold, granted, okay, if Jackson Arnold did end up eventually decommitting and going elsewhere, that's when I would sound the panic alarm. Like, he's the leader. He's not the only leader, but he's one of the main leaders of this class. He's extremely vital to the future of Oklahoma football. And I think he knows that, obviously, being a 5-star quarterback and you're the leader of a program. And he knows that OU seriously needs him. Obviously, what's been shown on the field without Dylan Gabriel, and arguably even when Dylan Gabriel's on the field, could Jackson Arnold come in and be an upgrade? You never know, but especially whenever Dylan Gabriel eventually graduates, and then Jackson Arnold's right there, and he knows he can take the reins over for a really good team. Now, Drum, and then there's another Notre Dame insider going back and forth and kind of having a source off on this. Drum basically said that Jackson Arnold has no plans and he's not considering visiting Notre Dame. And that this Texas A&M rumor, he hasn't even spoken to a Texas A&M coach. And we've had Jackson Arnold on the show, and Jackson Arnold has said that other schools and other programs have reached out to him every so often and texting him and calling him, because why not? He's a 5-star quarterback. Everyone would love to have him on your team. And OU does this probably for a ton of players that we don't even know about, because they're that good. And, if you keep constant contact, then eventually if they do ever, start thinking about decommitting, you're right there. And that's what Notre Dame's doing, just because OU's struggling. Not like Notre Dame's been really hot out the gate either. They're not having a great season. They lost to Marshall. I mean, at least OU's lost to, Power 5 schools. And granted, it's not great. I mean, you're comparing losses. It's not great, but according to Drum, he's not even going to consider it, or he's not doing that. Now, Tom Loy, he's a Notre Dame insider off the 247 website, is basically saying that Notre Dame's in contact. They haven't made a ton of traction, but there is some consideration of the Arnold family visiting for the Notre Dame Clemson game. So there's some sort of potential there, but I just don't think it's happening. I don't buy it. I don't think it's real. I think people are starting rumors, and I think that he's locked in. He's coming up this weekend to OU to recruit. If he was looking to leave elsewhere, I don't think he'd be coming up to recruit Caden McDonald and Cecilia Kana and whoever else is going to be on campus. I just don't get the feeling that that's really a thing. And it's number 3 recruiting class in the for a reason. Fans think it's a lot worse than it actually is. Kids play on high school football teams that aren't always winning state championships. Not every single player gets to be on a winning team and go 10-0 in high school, whatever it is, every single year. They understand there's ups and downs. You can't be perfect. There's a reason why the Miami Dolphins are the only undefeated Super Bowl team ever. It's kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around.
It's also, it doesn't make sense, even from the whoever did start this rumor. He's been on campus almost every single home game. He might have even been there every single home game. I think if he did miss one, it was one of the ones earlier in the year. And he was at OU Texas. Like, he's clearly invested in this team. Coaches are invested into him. Like you said, we've had him on the show, and that was one of the questions we asked him. Like, are schools reaching out to you still constantly? And how's that experience? And he says, yeah, like people, they do reach out, but he just tells them they're not interested. And he said, whenever we did have him on, it has been a couple months. He said it had gone down since his commitment because he was explicitly telling people that he wasn't going to decommit or take official visits because that's just not how this coaching staff rolls. Like it's the school's job to do what they can to improve their football program. Like, don't expect people to stop recruiting players even if they're committed, and that includes Oklahoma. It's on the player at that point to say, "Nah, I'm not interested," or or not even that. If he just, if they're just checking in, like having a conversation, that's not a bad thing. Who, at the end of the day, football after college and even in college now is a business, and you never know. Maybe Marcus Freeman gets a job at the pro level and crosses paths with Jackson Arnold by the time he gets in the NFL. It'd be cool to have a relationship with a coach if that does happen. Like, changes happen all the time in football. It's business. You don't got to be rude and tell them to fuck off. Just got to have cordial conversation and move on about your day. Do your job for the school that you're representing, and hopefully get to the NFL one day.
And could it be that this rumor started because Peyton Bowen is his teammate and is committed to Notre Dame? Seems possible. But I tell you what, if Peyton Bowen was locked in with Notre Dame, he would not be going on all these visits to OU and A&M and, going to all these games. Granted, he hasn't decommitted, but it just does not seem like he's locked in with Notre Dame. And if he was locked in with Notre Dame and he hasn't been visiting OU or Texas A&M, and he was recruiting Jackson Arnold like Jackson Arnold's recruiting him to Oklahoma, I could see it being a little bit more legitimate. But a guy that is being recruited by OU, OU commits and is visiting multiple schools while he's currently committed to Notre Dame, I just don't really buy it. And just like the same thing with Colton Vasek and, the PJ Adebawore rumors and things like that. It's literally OU's best commits. There's some new rumor coming out that they're interested in decommitting. Until these kids tweet, visit, do something, decommit, no one has any idea what they're really thinking. You might have a close friend or a close person associated with the football team. Some kid. I just don't buy it. If you're the outside looking in, there's a tight knit group. These kids are not sending out mass texts to their high school friends and coaches and saying, "Hey guys, I'm thinking about decommitting." They're talking with their families, and they're not talking to the media. I just don't understand why all these people have sources around the situation when there's no sources. It's just speculation.
Yeah, and with the Colton Vasek stuff, and we talked about it in the last video, I understand why people were freaking the hell out about him potentially decommitting. And at the end of the day, a decommitment is always possible until they sign that piece of paper in December or February, as we say on this show almost every single time we talk about recruiting. But I did a little bit more digging because in the last episode, I did mention I wish I'd kept track of his likes prior to the OU Texas game. So I went back pretty far, a few months. He's always liked things from other schools, even after he committed to Oklahoma. Like, it's not a new thing for him. And again, just like whenever that rumor that he went, or not the rumor, but apparently when he went to go watch the Texas Alabama game with his family, people were freaking out saying that he should be kicked off the class because he went to go watch a football game. Like, the coaches, all they ask of the players is not taking official visits and opening up their recruitment to other schools, which, from what we all know, none of the players have done that. Until that happens, it makes no sense to just assume some kid is decommitting because of their social media. A coach, a fan, parents cannot control that anymore. Not in the world we live in. He's gonna like tweets. It's not a big deal. It's freaking sounds like high school boys freaking out because some girl liked their Instagram page. Like, that's just who cares?
It's the truth. And honestly, these kids are smart enough that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are getting people to react, talk about them like we're doing right now. They're trying to keep some people guessing a little bit and, keep them on the edge of their seats and be really locked into their social medias. And because it is a business at the end of the day, if more people know who you are and more people, are interested in your recruitment or your play, you can make more money down the road. And these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and they're extremely smart. They know what they're doing. And people, older people sit on Twitter and they think, oh my gosh, he liked a tweet about Texas. He's gone. Not everyone, all these kids that are committed, fans are fanatics, right? Fans are crazy about their school and they love the school. Most of them went to school here like us, and we loved the university. These kids are getting a degree, but their main focus is to be developed and put in the NFL. That's their ultimate goal. They're going to use Oklahoma to get them to the next level to become multimillionaires or at least get a free education. And while they're here, you might as well make some money off of it. And while these kids probably do love Oklahoma, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they do, they won't love it like we do until maybe after they graduate, or maybe they won't even care that much. There's a reason why that we're called fans, because we love the school. Not all these kids absolutely love the school. Some like it more than others. I think we have to realize that this is kind of a business transaction in a way. We give you a free education, a place to live, and a platform to make a bunch of money and be developed to be in the NFL. And in exchange, you'll help us win national championships. I think it's really, really easy to think about. And these kids are just building a name for themselves.
And it's like you said, they don't have the love for the school or the program that us as fans do. Not yet. I think you said it perfectly. They haven't stepped foot unless they've grown up as Oklahoma fans their entire lives. They're not going to have that same passion. Bostic has grown up a Texas fan for most of his life. His dad went there. They live in Austin. Kind of tough to just pull that away just because he committed to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is just a place where he's going to succeed the most as a defensive end with the talent with the lack of depth that we have at a lot of positions. He'll get opportunities to play quicker. Oklahoma coaches are great at that position. He's like you said, making a business decision. And that's what most of these kids do. They don't just go to the school they grew up loving.
Yeah. I mean, you don't go to a school that's, you might have loved Kansas growing up, but you're not going to go there if you're a top prospect, no matter how much you love Kansas, unless you're playing basketball. Well, maybe now in the future, people go to Kansas, but you don't go to Colorado. You don't go play for the Buffs because your dad went there and you loved the school, like Josh Bates. His dad played there. They are one of the worst Power 5 programs, but he knows that at Oklahoma, he could have a path to play it at the highest level in college and a path to play in the NFL. So I'm not saying that these kids don't love OU. I'm sure they do, but it's not to the same level when us have been on campus 4, 5, 6 years, however long people were there, grew up, basically became adults there, had some of the best times of their lives. You just love the school. And I know you and I both love the school more than a lot of things. It's one of the best times of our lives. And I think that's why people are fans and they're so passionate, because they just love the school. And just take it with a grain of salt. So I don't know. If anyone takes anything from this conversation, don't believe everything on Twitter. Some random person with some random picture posts like, well, Colton Bostic's about to decommit according to my sources. Come on.
Wikipedia. It's like when we were kids, you can't source Wikipedia. Don't say your sources.
Yeah. It's like now if legitimate sources, 247, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, okay, I get it. But not my sources from Joe Blow on Twitter. So I don't know. But anyway, so we can move on unless you have anything to add on to those rumors. I think they're ridiculous. And until something changes, I'm not buying it one bit.
No, I agree. I think that's a good point to wrap up the conversation and move on to the
Actual
topic at
football.
hand for football in this weekend.
Actual football. So OU obviously is taking on Kansas tomorrow, 11 a.m. Kansas comes in as a ranked opponent. They're coming in as ranked as number 19. OU is unranked, 3 straight losses. People think the world's over. OU can never play football again. But OU is going up against Kansas that presumably is going to be without their starting quarterback, Daniels. And they're going to start rolling out Jason Bean. Well, Jason Bean, if people remember from last year where OU had to pull it out at the last second, he played well. He had a little over 300 total yards, scored a touchdown, played solid, put them in a position to win the game. And Kansas gave OU everything they could handle. And obviously, later in the year, Daniels came in and started for them and played well and beat Texas, and now they've got some great momentum. Last week, Bean came in for Daniels, and he ended up playing terrific last week. I mean, he threw for 262 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he did have a pick. And he ran for some like 34 yards. So he had nearly 300 total yards, 4 touchdowns. Extremely confident, and I think the program there as a whole is a lot better than it ever has been in recent memory. I think Bean is a legitimate threat to Oklahoma because he's obviously done it in the past, and he played well last week against TCU, and TCU curb stomped us. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so with Bean specifically, we talked about it a little bit and mentioned it whenever we did the Texas game preview. He, along with Jalen Daniels, are both the type of quarterback that has been a pain in Oklahoma's side, not just this year, but for many years now. Because they're dual threat, they're very mobile, they have speed on them. So I think that's clearly, to me, that's key number one. And I'm sure the coaches know that with both these quarterbacks. Make sure that you have personnel out there that can contain them or keep them in the pocket. Make them beat you with their arm. Don't let them just run wild on you like you did Adrian Martinez. I think that if we can at least do that much, Oklahoma will at least keep it close and put themselves in a position to win. The defense, the defense didn't look amazing last week, but if Oklahoma's offense would have scored, I think that would have relieved the defense from a little bit of pressure, letting them play a little bit more free because they started the game with a 3-and-out. Had a few of them, almost had a pick. They definitely don't look amazing, but they looked a little better. And I think hopefully they can build on the good things they did last week and do them and more again against Kansas. Hopefully, and it seems like Dylan Gabriel's playing this week. Pretty sure that's almost been. I don't know if I haven't seen it been confirmed, but it seems like he's on a trend. I think that right there is the key. As long as we have a quarterback that can help move the ball down the field with his arm, Oklahoma will be good enough to at least keep it competitive and even win against Kansas. I think we saw it last week. Kansas isn't an unbeatable team. We just have to play a much cleaner game on both sides of the ball. And again, as always, no slow starts. That's also been one of the biggest issues with this team. Both the players and the coaches have been taking it very slow to start. We got to be explosive on offense and be extremely aggressive on defense. From what Venables has said, he mentioned how tired the team looked. And yes, we have a bye week after this week, but I'm sure that he gave them a little bit more rest so that they can have more fresh legs into this game when you need to start building momentum going into the bye week and to finish off the season.
I do agree. I think the team looks extremely tired, and I do believe that they will be motivated to go out and win this game and go into the bye week with a good feeling and try to build some momentum for the remaining 5 games after this game. And I think that OU will be able to do that. I think you're going to see they're 3-3, 0-3 in conference play, 3 straight losses. They've got nothing to lose. It's going to be interesting to see the defensive back situation with Billy Bowman. Is Bowman going to be able to play? If not, do they continue? He's not going to be able to
He's
play.
not expected to come back
Okay.
till after the bye week.
Okay. So he's not going to be there. And now you're looking at, they obviously don't trust who's in that secondary and the safety position because they put Woody Washington back there. And for whatever reason, Key Lawrence can't stay on the field. Brandon, before he went off to basic, was extremely high on Key Lawrence. And for whatever reason, things aren't going as planned. Does Woody Washington continue in that safety spot? Or do you see a young buck come up? Does a Robert Spears Jennings? Does a Jaden Rowe? Or does, maybe is it a Jordan Mukes? It seems like Mukes is not really in play, and maybe not even, any other guys that I've mentioned. But I feel like you might see a young safety get an opportunity back there. Or do they continue to roll with Woody Washington? Does a Gentry Williams see the field at some point? I don't know. It's interesting to see what they're going to do with the defensive back situation. And it seems like some articles have been coming out that Kip Lewis might be the most ready guy that we never expected to be ready. And he seems to be in a good spot. And does he get some playing time with Kanik this weekend to keep those legs fresh? Do they try to spell a little bit of Owegbu and Stutzman and Deshaun White? Do they try to get some breathers in there, not let them play the entire game every single game? And OU's had one of the most physical preseason fall camps around the country, and they've been going for months straight. They've been going at this now for 2-3 straight months. They're tired.
Yeah, and hopefully that is the case with Kip Lewis. I am going to call back to whenever we were doing a little bit of the roster stuff, and I mentioned I think Kip, and we looked at the linebacker position specifically. I can't remember which video, but I know it was over the summer. I mentioned I think Kip Lewis might be the better linebacker out of him and Kobe, at least just raw talent wise. I think Kip has that ability, so hopefully we do get to see him, and hopefully, and I've been again pounding the table about Jaron Kanik playing for weeks now since the Nebraska game. Seems like a lot of people are starting to see it as well, especially because the linebackers, the depth is gone essentially, and he needs to be out there. I think the coaches need and are trying to get out of their stubbornness, because I think we can at least agree that they have been a little stubborn with their personnel decisions, and to trying to get some of these younger players out there, because playing real game experience is going to be valuable for them, especially Jaron Kanik. But to talk about the Kansas team specifically, outside of Bean, all of their receivers that had a good week last week, all over 6 feet tall, 6'4", 6'5". So this DB group is going to be challenged. This entire defense is clearly going to be challenged, but the DBs will be. I think the DBs have a lot on their hands. I think Jaron Kanik again is going to be important, and if he does get to play, he would be important in this game. Hopefully, playing more of a spy on being matched up with their tight end, or again one of the bigger receivers. But here, I'll read you off the players from last week's game. So they've got Quentin Skinner, sophomore, 6'5", from Claremore. They've got Mason Fairchild, 6'5", senior, tight end. Luke Grimm, 6 foot junior, receiver. Tanaka Scott, 6'4", freshman from Mobile, Alabama. Lawrence Arnold, 6'3", sophomore from Texas. There's one guy at 6 feet tall. That's kind of where our corners can match up size-wise. You're going to need, and I know Billy's not going to be there, hopefully they put Woody in a position to succeed here, and I think he's going to be important at that safety position if that is where he is. CJ Colden, I think, did earn himself a little bit more playing time after last week, and hopefully we do get to see a guy like Gentry out there, because he did get the first pick of this year. How many picks does this team have? 2? His and Harrington's from week 2.
Colden got a pick too.
Oh yeah, Colton got a pick last week, but before last week we only had 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to at least give him a chance and make some plays, especially if your DBs are tired. And he's fast, 6 feet tall. He's got length. He can match up a little bit better than Woody, at least at the corner spot. So definitely, DBs have a challenge with these big boys on all sides of the ball.
Yeah, and they're going to have to get bailed out and helped out with this defensive line. This defensive line is going to have to put some pressure. Bean is mobile, though. They're going to have to put some pressure. Will OU, their stubbornness, they started off with a 4-man front and then have since switched to a 3-man front. And that's been part of the issue where it's just gone downhill horrendously. Will they switch to a 4-man front? I mean, you've got R. Mason Thomas back. You've got your defensive tackles. No one's really truly a nose guard on this team. I don't know why the 3-man front is the better option. I don't know why they don't run like a 4-2-5 and have the 5th, being the cheetah, kind of dropping back and forth like originally it seemed like that they were going to do. There must be something, because obviously we're not coaches, but it just seems like that this team should be running a 4-man front and have them potentially put some more pressure on, because that's when the team was getting pressure. They were running 4-man fronts and blitzing a linebacker here and there and figuring it out. And I just don't know what's going on, but I feel like they need to roll out a 4-man front, help out these defensive backs, and don't let Bean have time, because OU's not going to be able to stop these tall receivers. Now OU in this 2023 class have some length coming in. Jacoby Johnson 6'3", Makari's like 6'1". I think Wagner's 6 foot tall as well, or 5'11", but they've got some length coming in. It's just not here yet. And yeah, roll out a Jaden Rowe. I mean, Jaden Rowe is huge. Or I think Spears Jennings is 6'1" as well. And Mukes is huge. I mean, you got to roll out some height. You can't have Jaden Davis, out there at 5'9", 5'10". I mean, you put a 6'4" receiver on him, even if he's right there, it's just not going to end well for you. So I think Kansas is going to give Oklahoma all they can handle. On the offensive side, yeah, it seems like Dylan Gabriel is going to play it. OU's been pretty open about that. It seems like that they've given the indication that Gabriel will be ready. I'd like to think that Gabriel's going to be able to come back and move this team up and down the field. I don't really know, but it's going to be better than what it was last week in the half game that Bevel was in against TCU. It's going to be better. OU's going to have to start quick. They're going to have to lean on Eric Gray in the running game and hopefully score a few points, have a quick start, and get some pressure on Bean. And if you can start getting some pressure, everything's going to work out. It's just if they can. And Ted Roof needs to maybe not blitz a linebacker every single play, and maybe mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. And talking more about our offense and the challenges they've got in front of them, the Kansas defense is good. They do put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, so the offensive line is going to have a test as well for them. They have a defensive end in Lonnie Phelps. Right now has 6 sacks on his own, and then a linebacker. His name is I'm pulling him up. Craig Young. He's got 2 sacks of his own. I mean, this team can get after the quarterback. Team as a whole right now has 16 sacks on the year. Not going to be easy. Dylan Gabriel will probably need to make some plays with his legs as well, and he can do it. Again, I think if we look back at how the season has been so far with Dylan Gabriel, has he been perfect? Definitely not. We can all agree on that. I think Levy's play calling hasn't been amazing either. And to some degree, I think it is because of the depth at quarterback, and it's been displayed over the last week and a half of games. We cannot have him go down. So when he does need to make those plays on his feet, he's got to try to get down. And, clearly at the TCU game, that was his attempt, and the linebacker just made a play that was unfortunate. Clearly not something that was intentional. So people that are out, because we have seen that rumor, we actually had someone tweeted it at us if it was an intentional thing. We don't believe it was. Um, it's going to be tough. Hopefully, Dylan Gabriel isn't scared of making those plays on his feet, because it wouldn't be crazy to think that a quarterback, especially knowing how important he is to this team, would be a little bit, you know, feels like he needs to hold back a little bit from making plays with his feet down the field, because you don't want to get hurt again. As a player, you don't want to get hurt ever, especially when you're trying to make it to the professional level, but even more so when you know how important you are to the team's success. It's a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he's going to need to shake that off, because he can't be standing in the pocket taking sacks either. And he needs to use that mobility that he has to make this defense second guess, just pinning back their ears and going after him.
Yeah, and I bet he will have some hesitation in the beginning. He probably does have it in his brain that he's like, man, I can't get hurt. I mean, I know what's behind, what depth's behind me, and it's not great. So I could see that happening. I think he'll settle in. Luckily, it's at home. At this point in the season, OU just needs to take it 1 week at a time. Beat Kansas this weekend, go into the bye week, get some rest, and you win a couple games in a row. The feeling and the perception of this team and this program will totally change. Just like 3 weeks ago, I was extremely high on OU. Man, they are rolling. They look good. And it wasn't just you or me. It was national media. Everyone's like, wow, Brent Venables is really turning around. Well, look at how quick everything has turned. Now, the rumor mill is flying around, and within 3 weeks. 3 good weeks could totally change the perception of this team and the way that they finish. If this team ends up going 4-2 in their last 6 games, go 7-5, go to a bowl game, potentially win that, the feeling around this program is totally different. And they're having a midseason crisis, and it's okay. They just need to take it 1 week at a time. They might beat a team that no one expects them to beat them. I think it starts this week. If OU shows no improvement, they get blown out by Kansas, I probably will start being more and more concerned at that point. And I know Kansas is good, but you can't get blown out. Well, I guess they didn't get blown out by Kansas State, but you can't get blown out for 3 straight weeks, especially to Kansas. I don't think they got blown out by Kansas State.
I think you can't have a quarterback have those kind of games. You can't have the quarterbacks have their Heisman moments against Oklahoma every single week. And I think that's the biggest issue we've seen with this team over the last 3 weeks. The quarterback looks like they could be first-round draft picks. Adrian Martinez, he hasn't been a great in his entire career. Again, I don't think he's had that kind of performance since the Oklahoma game. Duggan's a good quarterback, but is he a first-round talent? No. Who else did we play?
Quinn Ewers.
Okay, yeah, he's very talented. I'll give him that. But even he, like Oklahoma did, again, almost get a pick on him. Like, I think Oklahoma's defense started off well, but the offense just wasn't doing anything to help out.
No, I agree. I mean, if they just can't slow down Kansas and they're against a backup quarterback, they can't at least slow them down a bit and make it at least a competitive game. That's when I'm going to be like, wow, okay, what is going on? And I think they'll come out. I think they'll be ready. I think Gabriel will put together a pretty solid game. I think OU wins, but maybe I'm just trying to will OU into winning one because they need to win one badly. So, do you have any more thoughts on this game in general, or do you want to roll into our bets?
I want to call out a player's name from Kansas because I haven't mentioned him. Kobe Bryant. He's got 2 picks on the year, and I'm not calling him out because he's got a cool name, because he does. He's a corner. I believe he's one of their top corners. Sophomore, number 2, 6 feet tall. Definitely a guy that could give problems. I wouldn't be surprised if they have him cover Marvin Mims. And hopefully we see something out of Theo Weiss. I'm not really sure what's going on with that situation. I know the coach said it was due to game plan that he didn't play against Texas. So hopefully now that Dylan's back, the game plan gets him back on the field. Definitely not a guy you want to be sitting on the sidelines, both for his length and for his talent.
No, not at all. I mean, the game plan was that they knew that Davis Bevel could not throw the football. So,
Yeah.
I mean, which is just wild to me. I mean, it's hard for me to run around that. But anyway, so we'll see. We'll roll into our bets. I have 5 games. You have 5 games. I'm 23-19 overall, and you are 24-23-1.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to start with that OU-KU game. I think OU puts it back. I think they put a solid game together. They're at home. They get Gabriel back. They're like, we got to win going into the bye week. I think OU -9. It might be ridiculous, and I probably will look stupid, but at some point they're going to put it all together. They can't go 4 straight weeks losing. I guess they could, but I just don't think they will.
I'm on the other side of that. I've got Kansas +9. I do think Oklahoma can win the game, so I wanted to say that to start this off. I just don't think we can win it by 10 or more points. I do think that it would be a close game, but I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we do just completely shove them out of the palace and make sure that we have our backups in at some point in the game, but that just seems unlikely with how we've seen this team play over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. My next game is staying in the Big 12. It's Iowa State and Texas. Iowa State's going on the road at Texas, 11 a.m. on ABC tomorrow. Iowa State's a 16-point underdog. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm taking Iowa State +16. Texas is coming off their biggest win in, I don't know, since the Sugar Bowl with Sam Ehlinger and when they beat Georgia, which was like 5 years ago or something like that. It's been a while, maybe 4. They're coming off of a high emotional game. They thumped OU. They're riding high. Iowa State is not the best team. I'm not going to say that, but their defense is solid. They've been in every game that they've lost. They lost to Baylor by 7. They lost to Kansas by 3. They lost to Kansas State by 1. Iowa State plays really close games. They're solid. And I think they're going to catch Texas sleepwalking a bit. And I'm still thinking that Texas is going to win. 16 points is a lot. I just don't know if Texas can put together back-to-back games and coming off of a rivalry game that they thumped OU.
Yeah, those are fair points. My next game is Oklahoma State. They are traveling to TCU. Currently the underdogs. I know TCU's looked really good pretty much all season and especially in the last 2 weeks, but I think Oklahoma State's really good, and I hate to say it, I think they win this game on the road. I have them on the money line. I found the odds being +150, so I'll take that.
And I'm saying in the Big 12 as well, that OSU TCU game, I'm taking OSU +4. TCU is solid. I just think that TCU might be having they're having more success earlier than they thought with Sonny, their new coach. I just think that OSU has some veteran leadership. They've been there. They've done that. I think OSU wins outright. I'll take OSU +4.
And as much as I hate to say it, Mike Gundy is a good coach. He's only really scared of one program, and it's Oklahoma. I don't think that Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs really worry him a lot. He's doing his job, and I think he can lead the Cowboys to a dub there. My next game is Mississippi State at Kentucky. I'm going to take the over there. It's currently at 48.5. Kentucky's defense has been struggling. Mark Stoops, he is trying to build that program and is showing that it might become a football school over there in Kentucky because Coach Cal can't make those guys get past the first round in basketball. And Mississippi State, I think their offense is rolling. I went through their score totals. If I'm remembering correctly, there hasn't been a game where they score less than 35, maybe even 40. So that offense is rolling. And if Kentucky's defense continues to struggle, I could definitely see them winning and covering. I just want to take the over because it is a conference matchup, division matchup. So sometimes those can be a little closer than you would expect them to be.
All right. My next game will be the Michigan Penn State game. I am taking Michigan -6.5. People like to give Harbaugh a hard time and kind of doubt him and things like that. And I do think Harbaugh is a little bit of an odd duck. But I'll tell you what, James Franklin's not a big game coach. I don't know how many times, but I can recall plenty of big time primetime games that Penn State's been in, and they flop and they lose one way or another. Ohio State beats them, Michigan beats them. Something happens. I just don't believe in James Franklin, and I think Harbaugh. He's obviously been in the playoffs. He's almost won a Super Bowl. He knows how to coach, and this is by far his best team he's ever had at Michigan.
Agreed. I'm going to take the exact same bet. I think Michigan's really good. They're at home, and I don't. It's not even that I don't believe in Franklin. I don't believe in Clifford. That guy has more ups and downs than any roller coaster that you can imagine. He either absolutely sucks and looks like he doesn't belong in college football one week, and then the next week he looks again like a first round pick. You never know with that guy.
That is the truth. It's a roller coaster. My next game and my final game is Florida LSU. Florida is at home, 2.5-point favorite. They are 4-2. Florida's lost to Kentucky. They lost to Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee is a really solid squad. They beat Utah earlier in the season. 2.5 points. LSU isn't the best team. I think Florida and it's a tough place to win at the Swamp. I just think that Florida will be ready to go, and I don't know how much I really believe in LSU and some of their issues that they're going through. And not that Florida's been, terrific by any means, but I just think that being at home, nighttime game, I think Florida just wins this one pretty comfortably.
My last bet is the USC at Utah game. I am picking the under. Point total right now is at 64.5. Cam Rising is, I think, a really good quarterback, and clearly USC has a very good offense, as much as some of you may not like to hear that. That's just the truth. But I think Utah's got the ability to run the ball very well. And again, that's kind of the same as Oklahoma's issues have been over the last few years. USC does have that same hole right now with their personnel. I think Utah is going to try to run the ball, keep the ball out of danger by throwing it way too much, because USC has gotten a lot of turnovers in the through the air, getting a lot of picks. So I'll take the under there. I think Utah's just going to try to pound the ball and just chew up as much clock as possible and keep it out of USC and Caleb Williams' hands.
Yeah, keep the possessions low for USC, and then try to get a stop or two here and there, and you can win the game. And Utah's coming off of a loss to UCLA. I think they're going to be motivated, and I certainly hope that Utah puts it all together finally and takes care of USC. But game I'll definitely be watching.
Yeah, and I think it's a game that a lot of fans for both USC and for everyone that hates Lincoln Riley and USC have kind of been expecting. This is kind of the game that everyone preseason thought, all right, this is the one where USC is going to really face a challenge, because Utah going to the year, their expectations were higher than what they are at this moment, but they're still a good team. They still have a good quarterback, and their coach knows what he's doing. It is at home, like you mentioned, so you'd figure they want to come out hot after suffering a loss to the Bruins.
Yeah, and thank the Lord the game's at 7:00 Central and not like a 9:30 kick. I mean, at least I know it doesn't matter to you because you're
I'm with them on the time clock.
Yeah, I'm just glad that it's not kicking off at 9:30 and I have to stay up till midnight to watch this game. So it's kind of nice. All right, well, we made 5 picks each. Made it this far. Do you have a end of video challenge?
End of video, the usual Friday end of video. What is your lock of the week? And if you don't want to participate in that, because I know some of you don't like to do that, just tell us what your score prediction is for the Kansas game. Brum, do you want to give yours?
Yeah, I will say 38-27 Oklahoma.
All right, I'm going to go with 35-32 Oklahoma.
All right. either way, I'd be happy with that. As long as OU can win, that's fine. So made it this far. We appreciate it. Hit like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and let us know what you think, your lock of the week, anything else that you saw throughout the video. And be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and Apple and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. And we'll catch you guys next time.